Today's webinar is Migrating from Contract Management to Unifier, and it will be presented by DRMcNatty and Lynn Tam. We have a couple of housekeeping items that we want to go through before we start the presentation. First, all call-ins will be muted to keep the quality of the audio clear. If there are any questions that will need to be asked during the presentation of the webinar, there is a questions box on the right side of your GoToMeeting. Submit your questions, and then time permitting, we will try to answer as many of them as possible. For those attending and registering for today's webinar, we will be sending a follow-up email out within the next couple of days. In this follow-up email, you will receive a copy of today's slideshow presentation, a recording of the webinar, and also the question and answers log. We cannot get to all the questions today. They will be answered in the log as follow-up. We're going to get started with today's presentation, and we're going to turn it over to DRMcNatty.
Good morning. Those of you that have been in our webinars before, you probably recognize this screen that says that if I say anything different than Oracle says, it's probably because they know more about it than I do. So take that for what it is. A little bit about us. You know, we've been around the Primavera environment for 25 plus years. Unifier is one of the newest additions to that environment, and we're going to talk about what we're doing to get our team up to speed and ready to go on Unifier. And of course, that also includes the hosting that we provide through MLM Project Services, through data centers globally. We just opened up started a new company in Australia, MLM Australia. So the hosting is gone global and working very well for our clients. So one of the things that we found in the 6+ months that we've been into Unifier, there's an awful lot to this. There's an awful lot to talk about. So we've decided to turn this into a series of webinars, and I'll give you some more details on that. For those of you that have not been or were not on the August webinar, I want to go through some of the slides on the standard templates, or what Primavera calls the standardized base offering of Unifier. Explain what those are. Then we'll talk about the fundamental differences between Primavera Contract Management and Unifier, and some of the technical issues that we've encountered in migrating data. Lynn Tan, who is actually located in New York City. I'm in Mission Viejo. Lynn will be showing you some of the things that we've done to migrate data and to help align the information in Unifier with what we're used to seeing in Primavera Contract Management. And when Lynn's done, I'll come back and talk some more about where we see the value in the base templates in the role that they play in deploying Unifier, some of the technical things that we've been doing, especially leading up to this webinar, to deal with migrating data and trying to better align Unifier with PCM. And finally, we'll talk about how you can drive a successful Unifier deployment, and give you some ideas on that. So with the Unifier Webinar Series, we're going to get into some more things about this. In working through this migration of contract management demo data into Unifier, we've had to sit and think about who are we, what perspective do we have, are we an owner of CM and GC, because they have different perspectives. The owner pretty much manages down, the GC manages up and down, and the construction manager, and they're managing up, down, sideways, inside out, and upside down. So there's a lot of different perspectives that need to be taken in how you're configuring your Unifier environment. And the decisions that you make, especially early on in how you configure Unifier, are going to be very important to what you can do as you go along. And so we'll talk about those next month. For November, we want to get more deeply into the cost and schedule integration with P6. I really like the cost capabilities in Unifier, and want to look at ways that we can do even more with how we're integrating with P6. We know that in the development, the roadmap that we've seen for Unifier, that there's going to be much closer integration between P6 and Unifier to the point that I actually expect eventually they'll be like one platform. In December, we'll talk about integration techniques. Unifier provides us with the basic chassis for what we need, and the web service utilities are not only used to coordinate forms and workflows within Unifier, but also to be able to integrate into other tools or other systems like your financial system. So we'll explore that. And in January, we're going to show a model of using Unifier to manage a large construction program. It'll be our webinar. There'll also be a presentation that I'll be doing at the CPM conference in Orlando in January. And beyond that, there's some other features such as managing resources and things like that. So I expect that we'll continue going with more of these Unifier webinars because I'm on board with Unifier. This is where we've wanted contract management to go for a long time. Many of you have been around contract management a long time. I first saw it in April of '86 when Joel Copeland asked me to look at a product that they were getting ready to introduce the next month. That was similar to something I had developed a year before. And so we know what contract management can do. A lot of us have been around it for a long time, and Unifier is definitely the rollout in the future. Now the contract management is gone. It still has its place, and I'll try to talk about that a little bit more. If you missed the August webinar, you can go to our website under Resources, Webinars, and the video of the last webinar is there. So if we don't go into enough detail on this one, you can grab some of that detail back there. Now the base product that they provide with the pre-configured packages of capital planning, project delivery, cost controls, they're intended to help jumpstart the implementation. I look at it as a starting point for understanding how Unifier works. It's something that can help us to learn more about it. For those of you that were not on the August webinar, I'm going to go through some of the common functionality and specific functionality, at least in project delivery and cost control. So the common items are user shell and administration. I mentioned before that administration is quite robust. There's actually 4 different types of administrators within Unifier. The templates and permissions, user preferences, they provide some of that for you. Functionality such as alerts, mail, document manager, the user-defined reports, those go across all modules with Unifier. You've got to, when you purchase it, you're purchasing at least one of the packaged templates with the project delivery. Probably would be the most likely one to start with. Now, of the common items, document manager comes with everything. You can see down here I've got my project delivery and cost control, all my business processes, templates that they provided are there. The document management is part of the basic package. If you have your own way of organizing documents, these folders can be set up any way that you want to. It's user defined. And you can upload and download to these folders, preferably through workflows that can automatically post attachments or documents that you create with your workflows into those folders, where you then have a check-in, check-out, version control, capturing comments, and most of all, a true audit trail on the documents. So the document manager gives us some true document control functionality that many of us have looked for a very long time from contract management. Project delivery, which I see as the basic component that I would start out with in Unifier. The business process templates that they provide include RFIs, transmittals, submittals. Most of these are going to have to be tweaked, added to, customized to align with how you do business or how you may have used PCM if you're doing the migration. And that is one of the issues that we've encountered in migrating PCM data to Unifier is there's differences in the way that the systems are set up. The audit logs, you can see who has touched what, done what, when. The related documents, you can see the little picture here. I like this one a lot. On any document, click related documents, I can see everything it's related to, and I can very quickly jump to it. And also there is mobile capability that comes right out of the box with Unifier, and we know that that's an area that the roadmap has indicated that they're going to be spending a lot more time on. Project delivery also includes bid management, procurement and contracts, laying the foundation for your cost management. There's a scheduler built into Unifier. You do not have to link to P6 or Microsoft Project. You can manage schedules within Unifier. We're going to explore that in a lot more detail in the November webinar. Resource management we haven't even touched on. We know it's not integrated with P6. It is intended for how you would manage your own resources across all of the projects that you have in Unifier. So I actually see it as a separate resource management from what I might load onto my schedules in P6. This would be my internal company-wide resources that I'm managing. So we'll get into that more in one of the upcoming webinars. Project delivery's got some standard business processes included with it. You can see them down along the side. A lot of those look familiar. As you go through them, they automatically file their output within the document manager so that you can have additional access to it. The forms have field level permissions so you can control data entry to a level we've never had before. I can attach to the workflows and then link everything to contracts, so I've got a good trail through the system for costs and documents. And there was a question in the last webinar about whether we could produce an original document. The answer is yes. But before answering yes, we wanted to prove that we could do it, and we have, and Lim's going to show us something there. And again, the audit trail. To dwell, actually I don't hate to dwell on the audit trail. I'm happy to dwell on the audit trail because it's something that many people have asked for a very long time. This is an example of a typical Unifier form where you're laying out several different tabs within this form with the fields that you want. You can add custom fields, include them here. These forms become part of your workflows in how you're going to be bringing information in and working with it. Built into the workflows, the ability to send email notifications. So I don't even have to go into Unifier to get the details of something that was just submitted. I've got it right here in an email, and you'll see in a subsequent slide how I can actually interact with that workflow through email, not even having to go into Unifier. Here's an example of a workflow. This is actually a fairly simple one, but at each point of these blue boxes might be forms that people would use to input information either through a form or by responding from an email like this. We've tested this. We've actually seen it work. I got a notification about a change in the budget. Instead of going into Unifier and pulling up my next step of the workflow and executing it, I just approved it from the email, and it automatically created a reply email where I could add my comments, and when it was sent back into Unifier, it executed the next step of the process, which actually was approving a budget and posting it to the cost worksheet. So all I had to do was go to the cost worksheet, and the result of my email was already posted. Now, there are some modifications that you'll need to do to better align with how contract management works. And one of them is to be able to create an original document. So Lynn was able to take Adobe Lifecycle software, load it on our server, and incorporate it into a workflow, and was able to produce an original document. Might not be the greatest looking of RFI forms right there, but it definitely proves the concept that you can produce an original document with a workflow. It's automatically attached to an email, send it to whoever has to sign it. They could use Adobe electronic signature, or they could print, sign, scan, and attach the response. And now this original document, it becomes part of the workflow, gets filed in Document Manager, and is permanently part of what you've got deployed in Unifier. We did some work with BI Publisher to duplicate some of the reports that we have in contract management, because the reports that are in Unifier don't necessarily look like what comes out of contract management. So we took a BI Publisher deployment that was actually hooked up to our P6 EPPM and hooked it up to the Unifier database that's in the same environment, and we're able to produce a report that has pretty much all of the essence of what we have in PCM. Now, one of the things that we did notice in doing this is that the base workflows from Primavera don't take the same perspective as PCM does. You don't clearly get to define the to and from parties. You know, I'm in the owner system, I'm a contractor, I'm sending an RFI to the design firm. Well, the basic workflow doesn't support that, so you'd have to modify the workflows to be able to do that, and then your to and from parties would actually show up differently on the report, but we didn't have the time to do that part of it in time for this particular webinar. I like the cost control modules. They refer to it as real-time cost worksheets, and they are, because just as I indicated with the email, I approved something in an email, logged into Unifier, and there was all the cost information already posted. And as I drilled down into it, I could see the history of where it came from and any supporting documents, which is a must for the environments that we work in. The workflows that are included, contracts, change management. We had a situation where we needed to create a commitment, but there wasn't enough money in the budget, so we ran through a budget change workflow that pulled money from contingency, put it into the cost account that I needed for budget, which then allowed us to write the commitment we needed to write. And it was all pretty efficient, pretty quick, the way that we were able to do that. The standard columns in the cost worksheet, you'll notice every one of these looks like a link, and that's because all you need to do is click and you can drill down into the supporting information within these various cost codes. I like the hierarchical capability. My cost codes can be flat or they can have a hierarchy. So there's some functionality here that I can see being pretty useful on a lot of projects that we've worked with in the past, and I'm sure we'll encounter the same needs going forward. Cost controls also has standard business processes already set up. Again, you're going to be making modifications to get things to align with PCM if that's what you want to do. Lynn's going to show you an example of importing detailed cost line items. That actually, once you understand how it works, you can do an export of cost items from contract management into a CSV file reformat it, and then import it into a workflow within Unifier to be able to import that information. Again, the results of your workflows are automatically filed in document management, rules, field level security. Make sure that you're capturing the right kind of information from the right people. You can support multiple projects, so I can write a contract. If I'm an owner, I can write a contract to a, let's say, a construction manager that covers multiple contracts or multiple projects. And I can do it without fooling the system because it's actually built in, including the ability to directly tie my funding all the way to detailed commitments with a solid audit trail to go with it. So these are the standard costs, or I'm sorry, the standard reports that come with cost controls and project delivery management. You might recognize a lot of these reports as being something that we deal with a lot. To get the format to match what you have in PCM or what you may have customized, you'll have to do some work using BI Publisher, or at the present time you could use other third-party report writers as well. We'll talk a little bit about the fundamental differences between Primavera Contract Management and Unifier. Okay, the underlying contract management database. I said I first saw this product in April of '86, and it had been around quite some time, but for a few years before that, it was originally developed in DBase. It was never designed to be customized. It was pretty much set in stone. And those of you that have been in the bowels of the contract management database know that there are decisions that Chip made 30 years ago that we're still living with and trying to work with various tables and columns within that database. And it doesn't always align very well with what's in Unifier. Okay, so Unifier can be customized, but you may not want to do that, because by doing that, maybe you're doing things the way that you did them in contract management, but you may not be taking advantage of some of the capabilities in Unifier when you do that. Okay, and let's see, PCM is designed to produce and track original hard copy documents. Well, we've proven that we can do the same thing with Unifier, even though it was designed to support workflows, user-defined forms, true document flow control, and collaboration. And but we can still emulate a lot of the essence that was in PCM when we do that. I see the pre-configured templates that Primavera gives us with PCM as not being the final solution, but being a very good starting point for better understanding Unifier and what it can do. Part of going from PCM to Unifier is our expectations and how we've come to think that this transition would take place. Especially if you've been around contract management for a long time, you've got a product that has a solid reputation, that does certain things certain ways we're kind of used to, but there's functionality that we want to see in it, like better document control, workflows, which we'd all like to see in the new model. So as nice as the new model might look, it still doesn't have a lot of the functionality that we've been looking for years. So what we get with Unifier is a platform. We've got a chassis, an engine, a driveline, heavy duty, very capable to do what we want to do, and then we can configure on top of that. And starting with the base packages to give us some ideas of where we want to go, and where you go, it's pretty much up to you as to what you have. Because you can have an organization-specific collaboration control environment for your projects. It gives us true multi-user, multi-project handle all the data that we need, integrate with anything out there. Of course, we know that Unifier is the platform of the future for Oracle, and it's going to be long-lasting. I've had conversations with different people in the industry. They ask about Unifier, where's it going? And I said, no, it takes a lot to get up and going on Unifier, but that's because we're in a complex industry. We have to think about the way we do things. We sometimes do them differently, and so we need to take that into consideration when we put the system together and deploy it. There's a lot of technical issues that we've had to deal with in trying to migrate the PCM data to Unifier. You know, at first glance, it looks like it might be fairly simple because much of the table design is very similar, where you have a master and a detail, or Unifier calls it a header and detail tables, where the detail tables roll up or are connected to a summary level, much the same way that PCM is. But the data structures don't really align that well in a lot of cases. In Unifier, the data structures are configurable, and PCM not so much, even though I can add custom fields. In PCM, attachments are linked to the record. Within Unifier, those attachments go into the document control system, and yes, they're linked to the record, but they're also linked to other things within the Unifier system as well. In trying to move PCM records into contract management, into Unifier, Unifier tracks a lot of history. I keep talking about the audit trail. Well, if you don't have the information in the system, there's not much of an audit trail. And there's not a lot of audit trail to pull out of PCM to put into Unifier. So it makes the creation of any kind of a standard migration software difficult. We wrote some scripts, did some programming on reformatting data for import to Unifier, but I can see those being different from client to client, and also within the same client, going from database to database, that they might do things just different enough that you can't have just an off-the-shelf migration tool. It makes a big difference on the kind of team that you're going to have when you migrate. Now, there's some things that you need to lay out before you start doing any kind of migration. And one of them is, we developed a document that kind of laid out what we wanted our tool to look at. How do we want to use shells, partner companies, vendors, how we're going to name projects. So we went through all of that. We also took and ran reports out of PCM with all of the relevant data so that we might use this as the source of data for doing some manual input. We might use it as to track or test or validate the information that's gone into PCM. So we can configure the Unifier output to match standard construction documents. So we've already solved that problem. And Adobe Lifecycle might not be the best solution. It might not be what we need all the way down the line, but I'm sure that there's other tools out there that probably could work with it too. One of the things the conclusions that I came to with this is, the PCM data in its own environment, we know what's there, it's undisturbed. You might give some consideration to just leaving that data in PCM for reference. And there's ways that you can access that we can discuss. And then just go forward with a fresh deployment of Unifier that is based on the way that you want to do business in your environment and not align with how PCM may have forced you to do business using that software. So it's something to think about. Now I think what we want to do is have Lynn go in and show you some detailed information, and so now I need to change the presenter. And so Lynn is now the presenter. I'm no longer the presenter. Guess you guys did that for me.
Yep.
So Lynn, you on the line?
I am. You hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And populate structure for the line items for the budget approval process. For every business process, you'll have a different data structure. This is the one that I created so that I could upload it to budget approval. Simply, what you would do is click the import button. I would browse to the correct CSV file, and I would click OK.
That worked nice.
And there you have it. So a pretty straightforward process. Obviously, you can import the complete budget approval.
It's right here behind you.
So next I'm going to show you how to import data, PCM RFI data into Unifier. Just going to show you all records that we have in our PCM demo environment. I think a lot of you would know that to get the data out into CSV format, you simply select the action export, and showing you as well what the exported data would look like. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this format. So one thing to remember is that it is with base product of Unifier, there is not a complete one-to-one data mapping. So we're just using the, as I said, base product RFI. Of course, you can modify the Unifier process call to include all the additional fields from PCM, and then you would have a complete one. So once we've got this CSV file, we would actually we have a program that we would run which reformat the data into the correct data structure, the Unifier to import in. I'm just going to show you that now. Again, it's very similar to the budget approval line item structure. In this case, obviously, we're having all the fields that are appropriate to the RFI record. So once this has been correctly formatted, we would simply go to the RFI log. What I have already, it does take a little bit of time for Unifier to generate the records. These are the same records from the PCM output. One thing to notice is that once you import the data in, it does set the record into a pending state. I've actually improved a couple of them already, and I'll go back to it in a bit. So the other real demonstration I was going to show you was how to create RFI documents using the customized layout, being able to attach that to an RFI record and saving it to the document manager. So one of the things I think I needed to briefly outline is where to make that modification in the process. I'll go to the company workspace, administration mode. We have something called UDesigner. UDesigner has the ability to be able to design all the necessary objects of Unifier. Business processes, cost manager, document manager, shelves. This is the main area. I'm going to look at the business processes. You can see here there's the log. I'm just going to scroll down to the RFI. Business process is based on a form. So these forms are associated with the workflow of that RFI process. I'll just open up one. So this is, obviously this is the design mode, but this is what you will see when you actually are creating halfway record in user mode. What we had to do to be able to save a record to the document manager and to be able to save attachments of that business process record to the document manager is include two data elements, one called publish path, which is for the attachments for this RFI business process, and record information publish path. So with these two, as I was saying before, we can save to the document manager both the attachments of the RFI and the actual RFI record itself. One thing as well to remember, if you have made modifications to the form, you would want to have that integration process to include those two fields. You would need to include it within the integration form here. So this would allow you to have integration via CSV or through web services. As you can see, currently all of the fields that have been available for this RFI record are within the integration layer. Okay, so talking about the two data elements that are needed, in order to save the document, there's a couple of settings that are needed within the workflow setup. So I'm just going to go to that very quickly. Just choosing the hospital project. Select the business process setup or the RFI. And choose the workflow setup, because that's what we have associated with the business process.
Yep.
We have included in the end steps of this workflow the RFI. Very simple setting, save record information to the document manager. Customize layout for creating an RFI document. We would simply choose the custom RFI last roll template. Also, to get the customized layout to work, we would, within the business process configuration, we have a tab called custom print. We would export the schema for this particular RFI business process. Export it as PDF. That file can then be uploaded to Adobe Lifecycle designer ES3. And from there, we can create the customized layout. I've already included a template ready to set up. So I'll go back to the RFI doc. Look at the RFI 003. I will accept the task. And any further steps within this RFI workflow, you will have obviously the opportunity to be able to save a document design. Okay, so I'm going to select the template. Click OK. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Okay, so that is saved. Now this is what I can do. As Don mentioned, you can attach the ellipse on the signature, or you could print the document, sign it, scan it, and save it back to your desktop. This was the customized layout that was designed in Lifecycle, and not using the default PDF format in the past. Okay, once that document is signed, you have the ability to attach that signed document now. Mouse to it, the one that I want. You can see at the bottom it does say one attachment. I will then address the workflow of this final response. Handing it to myself. Opening it up again. Close out the RFI. Click Send. And what I can do now is I can go to the document manager, because we have the other task step, and drill down to the RFI record, RFI folder, and you'll be able to see the document. Just one other thing I forgot to mention with the RFI import process. Once that is successful, just wanted to show you, you would receive a success email that Unifier generates. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please do submit them, and we'll answer them as best we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. While the guys transfer things back to me, when we tested it internally, the RFI came to me as an attachment to an email, I was able to open up that form where I could have used the electronic signature or, print it, sign it, scan it, and reattach it, and then send it back. And when I sent it back, that simple two-step process actually seemed to cover, the various steps that you went through doing it in your demonstration. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. I was just trying to, when you were within, logged into Unifier and actually within the Oracle webservice.
Yeah. But the way it would actually work probably in usage is someone would receive an email with the form attached, they sign it, send it back, and then it goes to the next step of the process. So I just wanted to clarify that for people. So I guess, okay, we've got my, Lynn, you have to click on that OK that you're no longer the presenter, I guess.
Don, your screen is back up.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, just a few slides to go through. Talk about the base templates. As Lim indicated, he needed to go in and make some modifications to get it to publish to the folder or to use Lifecycle to create the document form. I see the base templates as a starting point for learning and understanding Unifier, okay? They do require some modification to align with how most of us do business. I would suggest loading them into a demonstration environment the way that we have it. And then as far as when you're actually doing it, when you deploy Unifier, you deploy both a staging, a development environment, and a production environment. And I would not load the base templates probably in either one, but certainly not my production environment, primarily because those templates preclude some configuration capabilities in Unifier that you may want to make use of. Okay? One of the things to remember with Unifier is that you need to be careful how you configure things, because some things can't be changed. You can't just delete it. The most you can do is hide it. And there's no sense making your database more complicated than it needs to be. That's why Oracle suggests a staging in a separate production environment, okay? So that your production environment is as clean as possible, okay? Your base templates don't have all the data elements that you need, so you're going to end up changing them anyway, so don't put them into your production environment. That should only have your final tested organization-specific business processes. Okay. Some of the technical solutions that we needed to deal with in this were migrating logs and attachments. The export-import CSV, someone asked a question about whether Unifier has CSV export capability. Yes, it does. It's built into it. Can it be modified? Well, it's going to be based on the columns that you have, so if you've customized some columns in Unifier, then naturally your CSV export is going to be customized as well. So it does require programming, development of scripts to reformat the data. When Lynn showed you going from one format to the other, some of those, we actually had to involve programmers to reformat, a lot of information before it could be imported into Unifier. Using third-party software such as Adobe Lifecycle, that's something I see us doing more of. We're also experimenting with Pentaho. It's something that we use with our contract management interface, so that contractors can submit documents into an owner's contract management database, and we use Pentaho so they can run reports right from that web service interface. You need to take the time to decide what PCM data is essential. Oracle support's been really good sometimes it takes a little time to work through some of these issues, but they've been there, they've followed up on the SRs, and over the last 6 months, there's been a lot. This is a complicated environment. You can see working in it is quite complicated. Putting it all together with the the WebLogic server and everything else, that can also be complicated there. We've got multiple Unifier environments in our data center that we're testing various things on. So, that does cause us to have to deal more with Oracle support than most people. But because we host so many of these systems, our team really has an opportunity to get into and learn an awful lot about the technical side of it. It's one of the reasons why our hosting has been successful, because we've got a lot of experience dealing with what's behind the screens that you see. So how do you drive a successful Unifier deployment? Well, unlike my example of ordering a new truck, implementing Unifier into a completed environment, you don't just order the parts from a salesperson and it all comes put together. In Unifier, you need to have an experienced and knowledgeable consultant or a coach builder to put this body together for you. It's important to use a good implementation methodology. Take the time to define your requirements. Get an architect involved. Design it before you start building anything. Make sure that it's thoroughly tested before you deploy to your production environment, where you're still going to need support going forward as you want to tweak and add to some of what you've built. A consultant with experience like ours, working with so many deployments ourselves, we can leverage previous experience. We've got 35 people on our staff, and many of them have 20, 40 years of experience in working in the capital project environment. So when a client's not asking the question, our consultants are, so that we're dealing with them before the client brings them up. Implementing Unifier successfully is a combination of business process, application configuration, programming, development of good documentation, which is the basis of the training and support. It requires both an IT as well as good business process experience. Making a correct configuration decision early is very, very important in a successful Unifier environment, because we don't want you to end up with this. Okay? So take the time to get somebody involved that knows what they're doing with Unifier, so that you end up with a solid Unifier environment. So our recommendation is that configuring Unifier to support PCM would reduce the capability of Unifier. Give some serious consideration to leaving the PCM data where it is for archive and retrieval. We offer limited hosting environments for some of our clients, where for a minimal monthly fee their data can just remain there, and they've got a few people that can access it as needed to pull anything that they want out of it. What we have found in doing migration is anything that's important enough to migrate, such as contracts and changes, print them off and then manually enter them in Unifier. It's a great training opportunity. We've probably entered more data manually than we have by using technology and programming to do it. And start new projects in Unifier. In fact, Steve Kelly, who's on the line, and Steve is an expedition contract management consultant who's been around this as long as I have. I've known Steve for many years, so you've got another very experienced PCM consultant saying that leaving the PCM data behind and starting fresh with Unifier, he says, I agree 100% with Don. The concepts of migrating, it's not easy. It's not geared towards a conversion utility. So leaving the PCM data behind and starting fresh with Unifier is a good approach. So talk to people that have been through this. Deal with a consultant that's got experience with both, and it's going to help you have a more successful Unifier implementation. Next month, we'll deal with the different perspectives that owners, CMs, and GCs have in deploying Unifier. I won't be getting as much into the slides about what it does, but we'll be doing more online demonstration of how we would do certain things in different environments. So I think we're already at 11 o'clock, so we've got some questions that come in. What we're going to do with all of the questions is they're going to be gathered into a master sheet and answered. Those of you who have been in our webinars in the past know how this works. And everyone will get copies of all the questions and all of the answers. And if there's anything else that you want to know, don't hesitate to send an email to either Lynn or myself. And we'll be glad to, happy to answer those questions for you. And if you've got the time coming up, there's a number of events that we're going to be participating in. This next week is the Acumen Summit in Houston. The end of next month is the CMAA National Conference in Las Vegas. And the very beginning of November is going to be AACE Southern California Symposium in Indian Wells, and we hope to see you there. We'll be talking about a number of topics, including Unifier. So, hope to see you next month. Thank you very much.